very good evening to all of you. Welcome to Motivational Monday, VOH broadcasts. Today, the topic for the session, Democratizing Wisdom to Catalyze Growth. It is a time for pro-bono knowledge sharing. So if there is anything whose stock has risen since the corona crisis, it is that of happiness. Apart from last section of humanity and the global economy, our moral has taken a big hit. This makes positive energy the most exclusive element in the universe today. Its valuation at the stock market is also there at the highest. Dynamic energy is the most important ingredient in the global healthcare recipe to reboot and return to the growth path. And that is precisely what we have called this very special program, Motivational Monday. Yes, dear viewers, I am of the firm opinion that nothing is impossible to tackle if we start from a position of optimism. And what better way to do than to have a highly esteemed leader and mind such as Dr. Keerti Pradhan as my guest for the day. Dear Dr. Pradhan, we are honored and delighted to have you. So you have taken a time out, and we belong to the same alma mater, that is Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. Your diverse journeys, your rich experience, and visionary insight will act as a tonic for our dear viewers. And I'm really confident that by the time we conclude our show, our reader will be enriched with a sharper and more motivated frame of mind and begin this week on a high note. So without any further delay, let's commence with today's program with your permission. So can I start one question to you? In the face of certain challenges and still uncertain set of risks, healthcare business leaders are rightly concerned about how their companies will be affected and what they have to do next. In the heat of the moment, there are a number of lessons from history that can be applied now. So can you please share us and let us know your positive takebacks considering the decade of experience which you have?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Neeraj. Looking at this pandemic, which is probably very unique, in the global history, we have never faced such a global pandemic. We have faced random pandemics, random catastrophic situations, but such a situation have come for the first time. So the learnings are very new to all of us. But this has brought us back to our Indian heritage, to our old memories. I remember during our childhood days, our grandfathers used to tell us Swachhata,
Yeah.
which basically talking about hand hygiene, wash your hands, wash your legs, wash your face. All the time, whether we come back from the school, whether we come back from the playground, all the time this was reminded. But over a period, we had forgotten those. And that's us come back. The Indian tradition never taught us about hugging and kissing. It's all about respect, namaskaram, pranamam, those kind of culture. And that too from a distance to our elders. So washing of hands and face has come back. Maintaining distance has come back. So those are the things from the history I can see this COVID has brought back to us. At the same time, the model which was going on a mechanical mode, becoming more mechanized, has probably brought us back to say there is a humanistic factor to it. There is a human factor to it. So these are the two broad thinkings which our history has taught us in this situation. But in terms of strategy, in terms of the framework, we all are evolving with the learning from the current situation. So this is what I have to say regarding learning from the history to the current situation in healthcare. And again, I emphasize to all my audience, let's please follow our traditional practices of washing our legs and hands and face and all that, not for the sake of COVID, but as Indian heritage learning.
Right.
And respect our seniors with those similar attitude of namaste and pranamam and all those kind of things which you used to do at a distance.
Right. Thank you. I was just thinking this period of volatility can create opportunities that business can leverage if they are prepared. In the case of COVID-19 outbreak, which is happening, organization that take a more assertive and a long-term approach can spark various innovation that will define the next normal. So do you have a similar approach? Can you help us to take how it like was to define a strategy for the next normal?
Okay, so if I put my healthcare management hat, what I can see is a lot of innovations we can explore in the current situation. And when I look at the healthcare industry, the most common factor which comes across the healthcare industry is about how do you maintain the human resources. And as we all know, healthcare human resources is the major cost component in healthcare industry. And
Right.
nobody can deny that. And it's a recurrent expense. And when such a crisis comes, the leaders, the owners, the promoters, the top management have to take care of the human resources salary part. So I used to think if we could do such a global crisis management insurance fund, and as you know, a lot of insurance companies have innovated a lot of interesting models. There was a
Right.
time there was no insurance cover for the OPD services. But today, not only OPD, I think insurance companies are covering for the wages loss of that person upon that coming to OPD. So imagine the innovation in the insurance sector. So similarly, for the hospital industry, when they have to go through such a phase where the incomes are very low, probably they can think of insurance modeling for such a crisis where they pay very little amount to the insurance company year after year for each of the staff employed. And then during this kind of crisis, when the hospital is not earning, probably they can cover those salaries without feeling the pinch of it, pain of it. That is number one. Number two, who is mostly affected? It's mostly the private sector. Because public sector is kind of insulated by the government funding. Today, if you take the government hospitals, the government staff, I don't think they're much worried about their salaries. Historically, they have been paid and they will be paid. The most affected is the private health sector. Because private health sector runs through earning money from the patient services. They earn and they pay. That's the model they follow. And such a unprecedented crisis, they had never imagined that it would affect so much. So hence my idea of insuring staff is very, very critical. And as we all know, healthcare is a service sector. And human resources are very, very critical component of the service sector. It's not a automatic industry or a factory where human resources are very limited and the machine takes over. Whereas in healthcare industry, healthcare human resources are very, very, very critical. And if they are insured for their salaries, for their income, I don't see a major challenge for the hospital promoters, hospital leaders, or they get into any kind of crisis or headache in managing a hospital in such a crisis.
Right.
And beyond that, there are factors. Imagine a situation when telemedicine and digital health has been discussed for last 5 years and it was not getting approved. And this situation It's like blessings in disguise. COVID brought overnight telemedicine and digital health into play. Not only it got approved, imagine it has been accepted as a mode of treatment, both for the providers and the patients. And not only that, very recently, I think 2 days back, we got the information, even the insurance companies are reimbursing telemedicine consultation, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So sometimes this kind of situations really bring back the left memories which should have been done long back. So that's a blessings in disguise. And the other important part which all our hospital providers and leaders need to think, see, in the whole game of managing a hospital, running a healthcare institute, somebody can buy equipment, build buildings through money. But changing the attitude of human resources is not easy. Imagine we have got the approval for digital health, we have got the approval for telemedicine. But if our staff is not ready to adapt to the changes, if our staff are not flexible to use the technology, then the whole effort gets wasted. So hence, it's very critical to keep them continuously trained, continuously oriented, so that they adapt to the changes very fast. Hence, overall, human resources, taking care of them, their adaptability, their change to the situations is very important in a scenario like this. The leaders should start thinking about it. What can we do now so that we get a vibrant group of human resources for any kind of crisis which may come in the years to come? And through this human resources capacity building, through this human resources safety net, through insurance, probably we can address the challenge and crisis in a much smoother way. So these are some of the critical points which I wanted to bring forward for leaders and our hospital owners and promoters at this juncture and with this COVID situation learning.
Okay. Dear Dr. Keerti, see, I've seen you are into the healthcare space for so many years. You are mentoring the healthcare space since long, as far as I know. Without being specific, if you can share the slice of your contribution of knowledge and experience to the organization in need, the budding healthcare entrepreneurs. So if you can have, point on these areas, looking to your healthcare space domain experience.
See, this is a very interesting question in the sense around 2006-07, those years, I did a small analysis myself on our country's healthcare services situation and scenario. What I realized is, although there is a well-designed public health system, starting from primary healthcare to tertiary healthcare, and a very dominant private healthcare system, what I found is people at the bottom of the pyramid, people at the lower economic strata, they neither access the private for-profit hospitals or healthcare network, nor they access the government or public health system, which is very interesting. My analysis was very interesting. When I went deeper into it, I found most of the population try as much possible to reach out to the non-for-profit healthcare institutions, which are so-called charitable hospitals, mission hospitals, trust hospitals, which are there all over the country, in every nook and corner of the country, which we don't realize that. In our generic talks, we talk about public hospital and private hospital. This group of hospitals is private, not-for-profit hospitals. When we talk about private, it's private for-profit hospitals. So it raised a very interesting question to my mind. How do these hospitals survive? And when I deep dive into those hospitals' way of functioning, I realized that most of those hospitals have started with some philanthropic thinking. Somebody has thought through it, somebody has established it. But the unfortunate thing, what I found is they are struggling. They're struggling to survive, they're struggling to sustain, and at the same time, they want to serve the poor and needy. And that's a very critical situation. When I tried to look into that, I realized a lot of the private hospitals, the big private chains, they get support from all the big consulting firms with big good brains as their advisors, whether it is Deloitte, whether it is PwC, whether it is KPMG, E&Y, many more, McKinsey, BCG, and all that. They advise these big chain hospitals. But unfortunately, these not-for-profit charitable hospitals who are really serving the socioeconomic strata, they don't get any kind of support. And as we all know, healthcare is a fast-changing world. Whether it is equipment, whether it is technology, whether it is processes, whether it is procedures, whether it is quality measures, the changing is very fast in comparison to many other industries. Imagine a not-for-profit seeking advice from a big consulting firm and changing the way of working is practically impossible. But at the same time, they are a critical pillar of our healthcare services, reaching out to the lower socioeconomic strata of the society. And hence, I thought of, in some way, trying to help them out. And what I realized is, if I have the expertise, if I have the experience, if I have the knowledge, beyond my work, whatever work I'm doing for my bread and butter, I can contribute my time to help them in some way or other. So that if they can sustain themselves, if they can survive as a charitable organization in healthcare, probably they can serve more and more people. So with that philosophy, I started doing some kind of pro bono consulting, pro bono advisory for those kind of hospitals who are in the remote part of our country and serving needy population of our country. And that has helped a lot. Some of the hospitals have really stood up and they have survived the crisis and they're serving a larger population. And the typical help they need is how do you serve the poor and yet be sustainable, yet survive with all these expensive gadgets and equipments and ever-changing medical fraternity or medical world. So that's one thing which I would advise my younger generations, my younger managers in healthcare, to see if they can help some of those charitable hospitals proactively and in a pro bono manner. I think that would go a long way in sustaining our healthcare ecosystem, which comprises of government, private for profit, private not for profit, all three. And that would be a great help for our country in terms of managing all strata of our society. When I say all strata of our society, the other learning which I heard is, unlike many other countries in the world, I have never seen the kind of six-layered socioeconomic strata we have in India. Six-layered. We typically see rich, middle class, and poor. You go to any country. But here, we see six layers, and I'll tell you about those six layers. Super rich, rich, upper middle class, middle class, lower middle class, poor. You don't see such six layers in any other country in the world.
Right.
Which is very, very interesting. So in order to cater to such six layers in terms of healthcare services, alone government hospitals or government healthcare system will not suffice, nor alone private healthcare system will suffice. We need this middle category, which are private, not-for-profit, or trust hospitals or charitable hospitals to help in our entire ecosystem of healthcare services in the country. So that's one thing which I would suggest to my younger generations. This startup entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs. And I see that amazing amount of work is going on among the younger generation entrepreneurs, engineers, who are coming forward to help the country with innovative, appropriate technology in healthcare. The
Mhm.
hospitals which cannot afford all the GE, Siemens, and Philips kind of equipment are Indian entrepreneurs coming up with appropriate, low-cost, affordable diagnostic equipment, diagnostic gadgets. That's amazing. And we all need to help them to take it forward and to be used among all these hospitals which I was talking about. And the other interesting part is I find a lot of engineers are involved into developing these healthcare gadgets. And the unfortunate thing is they don't have support of healthcare fraternity. Either they don't know who are they, whom should they ask for help, or not able to access them. So I have a plan to actually bridge the gap between an engineer who is trying to develop an appropriate gadget to serve the lower socioeconomic strata of the society through those charitable hospitals, through public hospitals, and all that. How can we help them in getting their equipment, instruments, gadgets which are developed for piloting in our hospitals, in our health centers, so that they see the light of the day? That's another thing which I want to speak to the budding entrepreneurs.
Right. Thank you. Just few things which I want to know, some one line or one statement from you. What would be your mantra for the change leader of to tomorrow? What do you feel? What is your mantra for that?
Uh, I would say think global, act local.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
If we do the reverse, which can be risky, we think global and also act global, then it can be
Okay.
risky. So always considering Indian scenario, considering a developing country scenario, it should be
Mm-hmm.
think global, act local.
Okay. Great. As a thought leader who inspire many, you inspire so many people and organization. How do you stay inspired yourself?
So one thing is very clear that life is finite. For sure,
Mm-hmm.
life is not infinite.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of experience, the kind of knowledge, the kind of opportunity we get, we must share it.
Mm-hmm.
There is no second thought. Within that
Right.
finite lifespan, all
Mm-hmm.
our expertise should be shared
Mm-hmm.
with as many possible. We don't want to carry that back to our graveyard.
Right. Okay. 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 Now, something about media thing. Healthcare as a company or an industry is not very media savvy, like all other industries. Do you think we should raise our voices more often?
Yes. There is a great need. Another analysis of mine has found that in some parts they do very well in terms of healthcare services.
Mm-hmm.
In the same country, in the other part it's not done well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very surprising for me.
Mm-hmm.
The same human beings, same population, similar socioeconomic strata all across, and one group is doing very well, another group is not doing well. Can't we learn from each other? Can that be shared? And the other part I see is often we reinvent the wheel. The same thing has worked in another part of our country, the other part don't know about it. So hence,
Right.
if media can bridge that gap, there's a
Mm-hmm.
great role of media in bringing those good models and share across the country, every nook and corner, in a way, in a cost-effective way. If they start charging money, again, those trust hospitals will not be able to afford. So hence, sharing the knowledge and not allowing the reinventing of wheel can go long way by the media and the social aspects.
But why healthcare players are not very media savvy? I just don't know, because in the private healthcare space, I'm seeing they're not very media savvy.
Yes, I think if I give an analogy to that, I
Mm-hmm.
remember some time back I wanted to do a study in a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Study was nothing to do with any kind of confidential information or anything. Very simple study. So I think there is a very generic fear And hospital data, hospital research should be very confidential, should not go out. So there is a mind block, I would say, mind block among the top management, among the leaders in the healthcare industry, that they want to keep everything very confidential in the name of testing data, in the name of patient privacy, which is not the truth. Okay, there is something which needs to be kept confidential. There are many things which need to be shared, which need to be promoted. And hence, I strongly feel the healthcare leaders should sit together and think how much we are losing by not sharing, how much we are losing by not popularizing the helpful concepts. Some hospital has done very well on some procedures, some processes, some technology, some gadget need to be shared.
Yes.
If one part of the country's human beings are getting that service, what seen the other parts human beings have done that they're not getting that service? It's a huge imbalance.
Right.
In fact, yeah.
Like you, what you're saying rightly, I was thinking, since I represent a children multi-specialty hospital, whatever specialist clinic we launch, see, because it is a subspecialty, most of the people don't know, like a epilepsy clinic or a Pragati clinic and all. So we used to do a videos, we used to call media houses and show what we are doing in this epilepsy clinic, so that people get to know. I think they will come. They will come and avail that facilities, because people just don't believe it. There is epilepsy clinic for small children's. So I feel, people should participate, not too close to media and not too far away. Some optimum and safe distance has to be maintained. Social distancing has to be maintained. You have to be media savvy, but with a 2 meters gap. That's most important. As a last but not the least, what kind of gap in healthcare space do you think dedicated media and content platform like our VOH network fills?
See, as I understand, VOH is a young and dynamic organization. And within a short span of time, the way Voice of Healthcare has bridged the gap in bringing people together, in sharing the key messages across the country is amazing. And that's what I was expecting. And that's how we need VOH to spread, or we need many, many VOH. Probably every state should have a VOH. In a country like India, with 1.4 billion population, I don't think one VOH we need. We need probably 30 VOH in 30 states to do the same work what this young VOH has done till date. And it's amazing. And we need that. And that's the key. It's not about you doing a single surgery in a hospital. It's about sharing the success stories, sharing the issues and concerns, learning from the issues and concerns, and taking all together so that every human being, which we call as health is a basic human right, should have access to at least the information. And then he can take an informed decision. And that's critical.
Okay. I'll just mention something about you're talking about 30 VOH. VOH has created 4 zones, a North zone, a regional chapter for North, South, East, and West. So we have 4 regional zones, which is taken care by a different executive committee and which is merged into a central committee. So thank you very much, Dr. Keerti Pradhan, for sparing your valuable time in the evening. And I'm sure by hearing your talk and hearing your wisdom, our Monday become very motivated. And I think we have a fantastic week ahead. Thank you very much for sparing time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
It's my pleasure.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.